let us return to order. Let the record reflect all the council members that were at the special meeting are still here. First item on our workshop agenda tonight is the beach rental delivery business. Mel?
Yeah, so there was a couple of questions from some constituents lately about businesses on the beach. So I looked up, I want to make sure we're on the same page on this. When it concerns peddling, it says that peddling is allowed in two specific zoning categories, general commercial and tourist commercial. But it says that any peddling which is proposed from a location on the beach also requires city council approval. So I guess the question is, what do we consider peddling? We've got a business in town that offers rentals to some of their constituents, and they make the contract in exchange of money for those rentals at their location in the correct zoning categories, and then they deliver the umbrellas and the chairs to the beach. So the question is that peddling on the beach?
And the only thing they do is peddle specifically for the use on the beach?
Right.
That sounds like the same thing as Hector's business on the beach. He's tied to a commercial entity and he has permission of the city council to use it on the beach. Is that what you're asking? It sounds the same.
Well, Hector is actually on the beach when he exchanges money, and this business is on their location across the street. And
they have a license for that business.
they've got a license for that business. It's like a sideline thing they offer for their clients.
So you can rent your beach chairs or beach umbrellas from this company, and then they deliver it to the beach?
Correct.
By hand.
And then they pick them
By
up.
hand.
Do they pick them up and take them back?
They do.
Okay.
Well, I think you'll see more of these businesses
Yeah.
maybe pop up, which, is it okay? Yeah, I don't know.
I just kind of wanted to bring it up. I want to make sure we're all in the same
Well, we may have
line of thought.
to take a real close look at what the LDR says. Isn't it in the LDR?
This is in the chapter 111 of our code under peddlers.
Okay.
How is that different? Wasn't it last year somebody wanted to do something similar, but as long as they were in front of or hooked up with, I think it was Gulf View?
Yeah, beachfront.
Yeah, and as long as Gulf View said that they were okay with that, didn't we say that it was okay? They were kind of doing the same thing, although they were exchanging money on the beach versus, I'm sure you're talking about the realtor who's saying they can.
Right.
Well, anyone doing
It's just-
anything has to come to your office to get a license, right?
They have to have a business license, yes, sir.
Okay. So maybe at that time is when we review what's going on the beach. And maybe nobody else coming, but I have a feeling there will be.
That just happened in January.
It's going to happen again too. Don't you think? Will they leave no trace? Everybody's going to quit bringing their own stuff and they're going to start renting.
But what's the differentiation between a beachfront business and this is just a deviation of that? That means every realty company in town can do it. And that's okay.
Well, I don't know.
Why not? Did it?
I don't think so. I mean, it's going to be the same thing that we're talking about with the food trailers. You look at down the beach and you'll have 25 people selling and renting whatever. So there's going to have to be some control over that.
Right, absolutely. Well, somebody last year actually wanted to set up a business and deliver up and down the beach on an ATV, and we didn't let that happen.
Right. That's right.
And no vehicles on the beach. And these folks are literally just carrying it to the beach from the closest access point, I suppose. And coming back and getting it, and they understand about leaving a trace.
Right.
I don't really see harm and foul, but there's a real fine line there.
It really has to do with their initial business, though. I mean, they're in the rental business, and if they are trying to accommodate their clients, problem with it myself.
It would be cleaner if the customer would pick up the chairs and umbrellas at the realty office and carry it themselves to the beach.
Because let's talk, leave a trace just happened. If they're renting and they take them out there at 7 o'clock and they leave them all day long, it's kind of the same thing as people putting them out there and leaving them. And they're just coming and going all day long. That's kind of defeats leaving a trace.
Mhm.
But if the person carried them out there and had to carry them back and forth, I kind of think that's a better idea personally. It's a lot cleaner.
Mhm. Okay. Just want to make sure we're consistent.
Does
Because
it,
if they want, we have paddle boards and kayaks that are rented, and they bring them to the boardwalk, and they take them down to the beach, meet the people that's renting by the beach.
They drive them, don't they, Linda? Drive them on a truck?
They don't drive them on the beach.
Right, they bring-
Yeah, they
yeah.
just go to the nearest boardwalk, 3rd Street, 4th Street, whatever, and drop it off, and then they pick it up a half day or at the end of the day, whatever they rented.
But we don't let them park on the side of the road all day either.
No, that's true.
It's a delivery, drop off, and that's all.
So why would that be, we allow that?
Why would it be
And they're
different?
not businesses in town. Why would we allow that, but we wouldn't allow the rental agent to deliver the umbrellas and chairs? What's the difference?
To the beach or to the access point.
Well, the kayaks, they deliver them down to, at the beach. The paddleboards, they could take them down to the beach. Because sometimes they're out in the water showing the people how to do it. So, what's the difference if the kayak rental or the paddleboard rental take them down to the beach versus the rental agency taking them down to the beach?
Well, people are already doing that. I mean, there were several on my street that delivered chairs and umbrellas last year. On
I know
27th
they
Street,
do.
yeah.
I think what Mel's looking for is some specific guidance. Is there a difference between Hector's own beach rental business or the business that does beach chairs behind the Gulf View? I think that's right. Or these other folks that's just delivering and picking up? Because where we can't go is the shave ice guy and the hot dog stand and things like that we've been asked about in the last 2 years. We're keeping all that, the commercialism off the beach. That's what we're looking for. But we're right. Some people don't prefer a rental company to bring their stuff down there from now on. Might be a new budding business. I don't really have an issue with it, as long as we're all on the same sheet of music. I don't recommend we change the LDR or the ordinance.
Right.
I don't have an issue with it either. We can always say we don't want food delivery to the beach. I mean, if it gets to that point, we can always say that.
If it becomes an issue, then we'll deal with it. Is it an issue right now?
It is not an issue right now.
Okay.
We just wanted to, before we even did anything, we wanted to make sure we had the blessing of the board.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. You can speak there. This is just workshop.
What's in between this and your next agenda item to make a comment?
about turning down the air conditioner, maybe?
I'm Sandy Yarborough, being on it at 66 Azalea Drive. And I just wanted to share with you a moment of my day. I came home from grocery shopping about 2 o'clock and went to put my groceries into my freezer in the garage, and it was dead, and it was full of dead meat. And it was pretty awful. And I called City Hall and talked to Sherry, and she said she would get a message immediately to Philip to see what
Thank you for mentioning
Thank you for your
that.
comment.
That's an attaboy.
Good job.
Is this on Phil?
I'm confused. What did y'all decide to tell Mel? What was it in the instructions that you gave him?
We didn't give me any instructions.
We don't
Other
know.
than we're not gonna change the ordinance and go by what the ordinance says. So we are broadening the scope, I guess, a little bit. But we're gonna do it on a case-by-case basis. If it becomes a problem, we'll bring it back up.
Case by case basis. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Auburn, banners.
Okay, I'm bringing this back up. As Jerry said, I've got spunk because I keep bringing this up. Anyways, banners. I just think it would be a great asset, especially during the summer months, to have a few banners along the light poles. I have learned that since we have wooden light poles, we need to vote this hardware in them. I've already talked to Philip, he said that won't be a problem. The actual hardware is about $80 for one pole plus the bolts. There are a number of patriotic stock banners that are $78, so for $200 a pole, or thereabouts, we could get a banner up on a pole. If we wanted beachy looking banners, those would be custom, and of course they're more expensive because they're more than 2 colors most likely. So I just want to bring it up for discussion. Perhaps we start out with 10 this year, and if we love the idea, we can always expand. I'm open. I don't know, 10, 20, I just said 10 just to start this off. So for about $200 a pole, maybe from Memorial Day through Veterans Day, I don't know. So I'm just open for discussion. What do you think?
You sit on the CDC board?
I do?
Okay. I was just wondering.
We discussed it.
I figured you had.
I think your phased approach is good. You know, we've been talking about this 2 years. We haven't had a big problem with it in the past. I don't remember, we brought this up at budget time, did we actually put anything in the budget part?
I don't think so.
No.
That figures. I actually remember about that now.
How many down the road would you say we would need?
I don't know. I mean, last year I counted, oh good heavens, there were 50 poles, and I thought, oh no, we don't want to get flooded with that. And if we agreed to go with this, I'd love to go down the street with Philip, and maybe in my mind, there's so many poles between 7th and 14th Street. It seems like sometimes there's 3 on a block, and we don't want that either. So, or I wouldn't imagine we would want that. So I was kind of thinking, you know, start at 7th Street or 6th Street just at the beginning this year and see where 10 would go, if it's every block or every 2 blocks, and see how far that gets us.
I think you'd have to space them out. If you're going to do 10, do them every so many feet apart,
Right,
up and down the whole area.
okay. So
And then gradually come back in and fill in the spots, because there's gonna be people at one end of the street, or on one end of town. Why didn't you put some on our end of
I
town, you
know.
know?
And so we could go 15.
We could take donations. How many poles do we hang Christmas lights on?
36?
And that kind of leaves out the Gulf Foods area because there's so much in there.
Yes, sir. I'll verify that number though.
These banners are on both sides?
Yes, and there's Sunbrella. Kathy, that I spoke to, said that these should last. They're guaranteed for 3 years, and she said if you're only using them from November or from May until November, she said they will last forever. but they are both sides Umbrella. And I explained where we're located. She said, I just looked you up on the map. You get a lot of wind, a lot of sun, a lot of salt water. So,
So you're talking $2,000 to $3,000 for 10 to 15 units.
right.
I think it's fine. We've got to figure out where the funding is going to come from. And if you need to talk to Philip at all, you can do that. But what do y'all think?
I like anything that makes the city look, in tourist season, more festive and holiday season. I like that.
And kind of store them during the winter time to save them a little bit? For or against?
I love it.
Okay.
No, I think in reason, it could be very nice.
Well, as long as we can kind of do it in a phased approach and make this a major project, because I think we can probably find $2,000 to $3,000 in our budget somewhere.
So maybe I can get with Philip sometime before our next meeting and we can just kind of look at polls and
For-
what's good, I mean, you know,
Does
what you
everybody
think
know-
works.
Everybody know our
Anything you want to do,
auditors
Ms.
here?
Linda?
Everybody in white?
Does everybody know the auditors here?
Yeah.
We're
Yes,
being audited, so
so now a good time.
next, don't talk to Adrian right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
don't bother Adrian.
Okay, so we'll put this on the next workshop.
Okay.
Talking about it. Okay.
next workshop or next meeting?
We have a workshop one more time.
Oh, okay, that's right.
CDC lease review. No?
Yes, sir. The board had asked us to every month bring up other agreements and our contracts the city has to review them just to make sure they're up to date, things of that sort. The next up on the list was the CDC. They have a 15-year lease with the city. During that time, they pay $250 per month for the use of that property. They pay all the utilities except the water. And the 15 years is up in 2019, so we've got another year and a half to go before it gets out of date. Kimberly said if we wanted to redo the new one early, take the place of this one, that's fine. Because, we don't want to wait to the last minute, and then here we are in 2019 in June saying, we got to do this. If we are of a mind to get it changed now, it wouldn't be such a bad thing.
Okay. There's a little thing that came up. The last several months, we've been paying a higher water bill than we're collecting on rent. And we went back and looked at the contract, and that was an oversight. There's 2 meters over there instead of 1 in the contract that said if you use more water than standard, be charged for the extra water. And we haven't ever done that, but we need to do that. The water bill's been, our rent's $250 and the water bill's $400. So there's something real bad wrong with that.
It's my understanding that and I don't know about the 2 meter part, but I know that one of the reasons that the city's paying for the water is because it goes into the outdoor restroom and if there's a shower in there, and that's handled by the city as opposed to the CDC.
I think,
Showers where?
is there an outdoor bathroom at the Welcome Center? Is that what the question is?
Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so her question then is, does that meter go into that? In other words,
there's 2 meters.
Well, we have a regular meter that goes to the building, and then we have an irrigation meter for, obviously, irrigating the grass. My question would be, is that bathroom used enough to justify keeping that? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
I personally, I've been here at the city 10 years now, and I've never seen anybody use it back there. Matter of fact, it wasn't until last summer that I even knew it was back there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
I
used.
actually-
It's used.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
I've seen it
used.
used a lot, on the weekends especially.
So who cleans it then, if we didn't know that?
The city does. The outside bathroom,
And
there's
because
a,
I think I don't know that it's the CDC bathroom, or if it's the city bathroom.
The outside ones?
it's in the contract. Your
Okay.
inside bathroom is your bathroom, and the one on the porch
Right.
is the city's bathroom.
Right.
But they're both on the same meter.
Okay.
It's not that one. That one's kind of covered under the general use part of the contract, which is not a
Yeah.
question. I doubt very seriously your bathroom, and that one uses 4,000 gallons of water. But the one outside is using hundreds of dollars worth of water for the irrigation. Why in the world, we haven't dug a shallow well over there?
Right.
For irrigation, which is a one-time expense that wouldn't even cover 6 months of the bill to put it in and hook up the irrigation to that.
And you're getting ready to go with a company to do the landscaping, correct?
Right.
That's good, because it looks pitiful right now. And I think that's money well spent, because that place needs to look really nice when people pull in there.
And I know, I just would like to mention that, you know, we don't just pay the utilities. We do a lot of the capital improvements ourselves, put in a new door, pave the driveway, we paint, you know, we do a lot of things there, and that only benefits the city in the long run. Thank you.
So you're right about the well, because when they get the landscaping done, it's going to require more water than we've been using before.
It just kind of fell through the crack. The contract's real clear that there would be one basic meter to go to the building. But that thing is so old. This is when everybody that's been around there a long time knows that used to be Jim McCullough's
Right.
office over at the Hideaway Harbor. And that was moved over, what, I guess 1990 or something. Long time ago, or 92 something. And the original agreement that we got to read was all about it being moved over there, and the CDC would pay this, and then there was some money the CDC would help pay for the city to cover the landscaping. But the second meter, it's in there too. If there was ever a need for a second meter, that the CDC would pay that. So that's just something that's kind of fell through the crack through time. We didn't notice it until we started noticing the consumption numbers. It's just way too much to use. I know that saying. I actually helped over there for about a year one time, and we had to have a lot of irrigation every day or it wouldn't be green. But we could get a shallow well over there, and it only costs us just $2 a day for electricity. Use all the water we need for the irrigation, and that's just not that expensive to put in a shallow well. So maybe we can work out some sort of deal with that to get off the city water and not use the good stuff just to water the grass.
So Mel, you would talk to Kimberly about it?
I will.
Okay.
Any other comments about that? And raise the rent to $5,000 a month. The signage,
Bit of
ribbon
humor
cuttings,
there.
or the ribbon cuttings, that's all.
I just want to know if we need a ribbon cutting ceremony for Parker Park and Canal Park, once the canal gets finished. What's your thoughts? I was thinking that we had such an uproar when we had the west part of the beach as a dog beach, and then we shut it down the next week because of the canal. If we do have a ribbon cutting at the canal, maybe we can have, for one day, have bottles of water and dog biscuits at the entrance of the dog beach.
Poop bags.
They can bring their own poop bag. Anyways, I was just wondering
I think
if
that,
we need to do it, or,
I think the canal, the Parker Park is an ongoing thing. I'm not ready to say, here it is wide open and we're
Okay.
ready to go and it's all done, because it's not all done. And now, the canal is a different thing. We're gonna be finished with it for a while. Personally, I don't see any need for a ribbon cutting at the Parker Park since it's already open, and we're hopefully gonna be able to do something next year and the next year and the next year.
But I agree, the Canal Parkway, we need to say it's open and get a little publicity on that. The park is kind of a work in progress.
Did we ever, speaking of Parker Park, did we ever decide to paint
it's still in progress, let me tell you.
can we plant some bushes in front of it
There
about
aren't
8
too
feet tall?
many. I have 2 artists that keep telling me I'm submitting something, and I haven't gotten anything yet.
I can paint some bushes on it.
Okay.
I am so glad to hear this come up because I did some other research. Ramsey's Printing in Port St. Joe does vinyl wraps that last 10 years.
Really?
You can take a digital photograph down there, and they can provide a vinyl wrap that'll cover the whole side of the building with a photo of your choice.
Fine.
They wrap trucks and semis and all kind of stuff with this new vinyl graphics.
That's a good
If you
idea.
haven't looked at one of these things, the water tower across from Panama City Mall to the shrimp boats, that's a vinyl wrap. And that
Good
certainly
idea.
could be one side, we still have some art on the other side. But
We
it is
can
kind of a big old stark wall.
Do all four sides. Jerry, you're the artist.
Yeah, right.
But
All four
it
sides.
Doesn't matter to me what's on it, it's kind of stark.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll give you that, it's kind of stark, but that's just another idea.
Yeah,
It might have to be budgeted, I don't know
Okay.
what it costs.
I did talk to Kimberly today regarding the ribbon cutting, and she said, she hasn't talked to her board, but she said, you know, I'd be open to have the ribbon cutting right here at the beginning of the road, have a tent, have some cookies, whatever. And, you know, I told her about my idea of water bottles and dog biscuits down there, and if we wanted to do that, have it for a day, water biscuits and dog biscuits and water down at the other end. But she was open to the idea of participating in it.
Okay, I'd like for her to participate in being open on Saturday and Sunday.
You will be surprised what she has planned.
Yeah, I know,
That's great.
I've always thought it'd be nice to have a sign going out the highway before you get to the city limits even, if we can. But I understand you have to be open 7 days a week in order to have a sign. That's true. Did you know that?
I heard that we couldn't have it because it's highway property.
Well,
That's what we were told
Well,
many years ago, but
I talked to the governor the other day about that.
Speaking of the canal park, Jeff's not with us tonight, and I updated with him today, the steel is inbound to finish the very end of the canal out there. The concrete guys are slower than they want them to be. It's gonna be a press to get through by the last day of March. But that's what they're still hoping. That's getting very close already.
We didn't have a time limit, did we?
Yes,
What's the time limit? When are they supposed to be? End of March?
I think it's 13 months. And then you have to add back weather days and stuff like that. I had to go back and look at the contract, I'm not sure. So Canal Park, ribbon cutting, yes, Parker, no?
you want me to touch base with Kimberly and see how she wants to be involved if she does? I mean, what's your,
Yeah,
what's your,
that's
okay,
fine.
all right.
Because we gotta get the sign for the Canal Park, whatever you call it, put there so we can get the other things set up too.
Did we change the name of that? We didn't, did we?
No,
We just talked about it.
but
Good.
I don't think you can because it was a grant, and you can't change the name because it was a grant. And Kimberly, I told Philip when he handed this out, she has already looked for canal signs, so Philip said he'd get with her tomorrow and
Yeah.
see what she,
We're 30 days now, we need to get that done.
okay.
Okay. Inmate labor, Mr. Putnam.
I just thought I'd bring this up, the pros and cons of it. You know, when I drive, I've lived in Macon, and when I head home, every city I go through, I look and they're doing work for the city. And I checked with one of our neighbors, one of the commissioners, I said, how's it working over here for y'all? And he said, it's the best thing that we ever did. And I said, how many complaints have you had? And he said, none. So, you know, and it's just something I thought it would be worth discussing. And to help with things, you know, when I walk or ride a bike, I don't ride a bike anymore because our bike paths are getting more narrow, more people are getting run over, so I'm afraid to ride my bike. And I thought, well, maybe, you know, we don't have time to do that. The sidewalks, dirt gets on it, and we don't, you know, you can't edge them all. We could do that. You know, I just thought it, and I remember, I think I remember one time we were talking about grants for beautification or whatever, and we just kind of didn't want to do it because it required upkeep. and I see them when I go into towns that are spreading pine straw and trimming bushes and all that. And I just thought for the public input on it, a discussion about it, for us too, is there a interest in that or afraid of it or what?
Rex, that was researched at one time, and what we found out here in the city was, due to the fact that we have so many people vacationing here, those prisoners are only allowed to be within so many feet of children, and it was not cost effective because the city would have to buy a van, go pick them up, bring them in, feed them lunch, take them back every day, and making sure that they aren't within a close proximity of children. And as small as this city is, it just wasn't cost effective.
Gary, what you researched is still pretty close. I actually checked it out too.
Okay.
The Gulf County provides a van. They pay the salary of a sworn officer to guard the prisoners. He goes and picks them up, but it's ever how many hours that he gets them. There's lunch involved, there's transportation, and the city has to buy all the implements they use and maintain the implements. It still could be a good idea, as much road work as we do and stuff like that, that they do mowing and all that kind of things too. They can mow 4 miles of right of way. It still bears some checking out again, but I think the statistics are kind of still the same.
Well, that may be true. I wonder how they get away with it in the next county over. I'm sure there's children there, and they're up and down that road.
Well, that was one of the biggest deterrents, was the fact that we have so many children here on vacation, and a lot of these prisoners are pedophiles, and they said there's just no way that we could, and our little city being 1.5 miles wide, it's now 4 miles long versus 3.5, that we could justify here. That was the big deterrent when I was.
Okay, you want to check into it some more, Mr. Putnam? Address some of those concerns?
We'll see.
See what it says? All right. The Parker Park rules, Ms. Alden.
All right, now that we can picnic up there if you want to, do we have any rules, restrictions? Can a family, if they want to bring a reunion up there of 50, 55 people, do we have, is it just open, or where are we? Have we even talked about it?
We've never talked about it, but somebody did ask me that, something along that line a while back. And I told them that we haven't had any discussions as far as that's concerned. But I know Beacon Hill, the park up there in Beacon Hill, they allow that sort of thing. No issues with it. It's just the first come, first served basis. If you get there, it's like, Adrian's wedding, we had to get there early so that somebody else can snatch up the buffet.
Right, there's no calendar or anything, you just show up early and
Yeah.
secure the spots, okay.
I do think we need a calendar sometimes, because we want to get the festivals off the road and get them over there. And some days, like the Gumbo Festival or the Kingfish Tournament or something, we do need the ability to set it aside on those kind of days, I think, and give them sole use. Once we get, say, a pavilion over there, I expect a lot of people to use it then.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like how we control down by the road now. We're small enough, we just talk to each other, and we're going to have the Gumbo Festival now. But we actually have a form that comes to the city for special events. Right. And it is logged and calendared and all that stuff. Yeah, I think they at least need to fill out the form so we can ward off other folks. Put up a sign, reserve the day by Jones Family Reunion or something.
Most parks and other places, you do have to reserve ahead of time. I mean, that's a common practice, so.
Some of it's even ridiculous. For example, under the Oaks Park in Callaway, the county commission literally has to approve every event in that park. It's on their agenda every time it's done. And I don't think we need to go that far in Mexico Beach, but at least the city administrator needs to kind of run herd over it.
So we need to figure out who's going to keep track of the calendar, who people would need to contact.
That'd be Mel.
It's not that big a deal, I don't
It's,
think.
it's not that hard.
No.
You know, bottom line, if you want to reserve it, you reserve it, and if that's not a reserve, it's first come, first served after that.
That works for me, is that all right?
I was just curious as to what we're going to do.
Okay. Parking on vacant lots?
Your Honor, this is brought back because at the last meeting for consideration, the city council wanted to take some more looks at it. So it's up to you.
First of all, we don't have to have a vote on this because we already have an ordinance. If we agree at the table that this doesn't need to be changed, it doesn't need a voting meeting. If it comes down to a big difference of opinion about it, we could always vote about it. I'm not in favor of changing the ordinance. I really think that the opportunity for this to get out of control in the city far outweighs the benefit of 30 or 35 vehicles parked on a vacant lot.
As I've mentioned before, I hate for government to control every minute of our life, you know, but it irritated me, the fact that I could have a house on one street and a lot on another street, and I couldn't even park my boat on it. But after talking with people for the last month or so about it, I think I've had to change my mind, because I didn't talk to very many people at all that was for changing the way it is now. Just, you go vacant lot, it's a vacant lot, period. So I am for not changing the ordinance. In other words, I can't park on that other lot.
And this is not to be confused. If you own both lots, if you own the vacant lot next to you, it's up to you to go to Bay County and combine your lots into one lot, and then you can park on your vacant lot next to your house. But you can't live on 20th Street and park on 37th Street.
Could I get a clarification on that, Mayor? Because maybe I'm misunderstanding some things here. Are y'all saying now that there will be no parking on a vacant lot at all, period?
That's what the current regulations say.
Yes, sir, and we have never, ever, my lot, and you and I have had this discussion before. I park my trailer, my empty trailer, which is road ready, on the lot across the street for 25 years. I keep that lot up. It's nicer than most people's residential lots in their yards. Nobody in our community has ever complained.
Well, that's not exactly true. We had two special master situations this year over parking on vacant lots.
I'm talking about my lot over there, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I know what you're talking about. Well, Mr. Pudnell's been parking his boat down the street for 13 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and the problem here to me is, while nobody's complained, I create a problem for everybody else, and nobody complains about mine. But there are lots that people do leave messy and all that. So, you know, how do you, it's kind of hard to say you can in this situation, but you can't in this one, because, you know, it leaves it, you know, and I'd love to leave my boat right where it is, but, you know, I understand property values and neighborhoods and what's happening and why it was put on there in the first place, because it got out of hand. And mine's not out of hand. It looks real nice over there.
I just don't understand why after 25 years, nobody's ever done anything to change things. And now this council, instead of addressing a specific problem, which you have had, is now going to run the gamut of making all of us in the city suffer. And I say all of us, I'm talking about all of us who park something on a vacant lot. I would much, much rather see a lot well maintained with road-ready trailers on it than somebody with a bunch of junky trailers and boats in front of their houses, and it looked like Clampets live here. And that's what y'all are really trying to do right now.
I don't think I disagree with that, but I do agree that if it's on the books, then we need to take it off. I think the fact is, it's never been enforced.
Yes, sir. So I can show you all kinds of laws right here. We can sit here and debate all night long. Laws in this city that have never been enforced and will never be enforced. You can't enforce every law that we've got or every ordinance and run a city or even have a federal government. They just can't be enforced to the letter of the law. A good example is your speed. Let me give you a scenario real quick, and this, maybe I can get my point across. Let's say that this council gets information that they're having a speeding problem on 98. And y'all say, hey, we're going to have to do something about it. And y'all direct the mayor, contact the chief of police. We want something done over here on 98. Next morning, he contacts one of his patrolmen and he says, we got a problem over here on 98. I want you to get out there and stop this traffic problem. We've got a speed limit of 35 out here. Keep in mind, 35. If you're running 36, which most of us do, you're violating the law. On down the road down here is 40. If you run 41, you're violating the law. This patrolman comes in that afternoon and he checks his PO sheet and he's had 10 stops for traffic violations. And he's written 7 tickets. And he asks the officer, he says, you got 10 stops here for violations of speeding on 98, but you only wrote 7 tickets. And the officer said, yes, sir. First person I stopped had a man having a heart attack. So I told him to go on down the road. The second one, a lady was having a baby. So I told him to go on down the road. The third one, a child was injured. I told him to go on down the road. My point being, this officer used good judgment. He made wise decisions. And that's what this council has got to do. Because in a way, y'all are the law enforcement for this city. Y'all like the ordinance, you interpret the LDR, and you've got to deal with each problem on its own merits. You just can't arbitrarily say, hey, here's the law over here, and we're going to enforce it to the letter of the law. Where do you draw the line?
Well, Gary, at the same time, I know you're not telling me don't enforce the ordinance.
No, sir.
I know you're not telling me that.
I'm not.
What we considered, and why this has been on the agenda like 5 times, is because the council said exactly what you just said. Wait a minute, let's look at this. You know, is it okay or is it not okay? So, and I know you didn't come. I went around every street in town and I took 35 photographs of violations. Some of them, between just me and you talking, didn't make any difference. I know your lot. The people who park on that lot only live on your street, and it's a cul-de-sac street on an island, for heaven's sakes, on a peninsula. And nobody cares on your street. But
And it always looks
what
good.
happened, that speeder did happen over in a residential neighborhood over here, and it was brought to a big head. And that happened, and then there was a retaliatory, well, if that's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. You know what I'm talking about. And what we're trying to decide here, do we need to change the regulation to make it more soft? Well, in the meantime, what we did, the empty boat trailer thing, we fixed. We provided, and we got a brand new empty boat trailer parking area over at the boat ramp. Can't have your truck over there, just your boat trailer. It's got signs now, Philip? Is the signs got put up over there at the boat trailer parking area?
They're not put up yet, but
Not put up, but they're going to be put up very shortly. But we approved that last fall.
I hadn't heard anything about it.
Yeah, you weren't here, it's very low key. We added a whole new parking area over there behind the regular parking area just for disconnected boat trailers. So they're not all over town on vacant lots.
Now,
And we
what
didn't,
are you gonna charge?
we didn't, nothing. And it's gonna be self-regulated unless it gets out of control. We made it as easy as we possibly can. That's to soften what we're talking about here. So those folks don't have to park on those empty lots. So So we gave them somewhere else to park for
That's
free.
great, I have not heard of this, and that's the reason I'm here tonight.
Yeah,
Because I didn't
but-
like the idea of having, after 25 years, to go, like most of y'all, I'm retired, I'm on fixed income, and I don't want to have to pay $35 a month to park a trailer that I use once every 3 years, or maybe once every 2 years.
Yeah, and me and you could tote your trailer off, it's just a little old tiny thing. Yeah, I understand. But before we even got to this point, we softened that cutting edge. But there are other things, what we don't want. We don't want my 40-foot RV parked over there by Rex's house on a lot. And it is not my lot, and that, we don't want that.
When can we start parking over at the boat ramp?
Been open for months already. Been open.
It's not long-term.
I'm sorry.
Is it long-term? No.
Boat trailer's gonna come and go. But it is unrestricted as to the amount of time. We didn't put a cap on it.
We never defined.
We didn't define the time limit on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not aware, I was not aware of that, and that's the only reason I
Yeah,
was.
and the CDC provided the money to buy the surfacing that we put down there, and we found out all along that we had a lease on that property that was flat out behind the boat ramp, that's part of our lease. It was okay, and St. Joe Company said as long as it's, what did they say, the same standard as the other? Right. And it's good. We can park 50 trailers back there.
Now, how will that be when they cut the road in there, which they're fixing to do, and go all the way through to 98? Is that going to affect that area?
That road is exactly on the edge of the boat trailer parking area where the signs are gonna be. We know where it's coming through, and that's where the start of the trailer parking area is, back there. Because you know what happens too, the tourists come, they rent a condo at the View, they got nowhere to park anything. And we're not talking boats on trailers. This is empty trailers, they gotta have current registration, all that, because it's an abandoned trailer if it doesn't have any registration on it. And it'll get towed. The business of the perceived heavy-handedness of towing vehicles from the boat ramp and all that stuff, I think we've got that resolved. If people will simply follow the signs and park correctly, park the boat trailer, if they're gonna disconnect, the trailer's gotta be back here, it can't be in the front. If you're gonna stay connected, you gotta be in the front, not in the back. If they'll just follow the simple signs, I think the boat ramp area will be fine this year. But what about other trailers? What about I don't have any more, but what about my dump trailer? What about Cost Cutter's power washing trailer? Nobody wants that in a residential neighborhood. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
And some of that stuff like you're talking about may be very minor, because your boat trailers kind of come and go over there, depending on if they got the boat in or out. But now they have an option. So you don't have to put them there. But that's why I'm kind of saying, I agree with several people that came and said, well, I'm going to use Rob Williams for an example. Rob has several boats in his yard most of the time on 15th Street. But right next to him is an empty lot, and there's 5 across the street. And Rob's all about homeowners' rights. I said, Rob, do you want to see 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here when you get up and walk out the door? He said, no, I don't want that. I said, well, that's what we're talking about. We don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And as long as we don't have a majority who wants to change it, I really prefer to leave it the way it is and take it on a case by case. One thing that we're not going to let folks do is park commercial on anything but commercial property. That's what it already says. Commercial property is where you park commercial vehicles, and you can't do that in residential areas. Unless you have a house on it and you live there.
Yes.
But we're talking empty lots. You didn't weigh in.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Well, I know what you're saying, and I hate the idea if there's a law in the books or an ordinance and we don't enforce it. On the other hand, some people, it looks nice. I don't have a problem keeping it. I don't have a problem changing it except for 2 things. I don't like the way it's written. It sounds like you can have 4 vehicles on a lot. I don't like that, and I don't like recreational vehicles on lots. But if the majority says leave it as is, fine, but I wouldn't mind changing it with those two exceptions.
So,
Just so that we all know that if there's an ordinance, I have a hard time with there's an ordinance and we know we're not enforcing it, then we're at fault.
I think we're all guilty of that because.
You know?
As we've got ordinances in this town.
That's right.
We will never.
That's right. And to turn my head, that's, for some things, we all do it.
I'll give you a real good example though. We haven't changed anything about where garbage cans goes.
Yes.
And anything we did do to it, we've kind of reversed all that. But there's people who live on 98 that, sitting here, I was going, they can put the garbage can in the back like everybody else, until I went and looked. There's a couple places you cannot get in the back. That's where the codes were different years ago, and things are up against each other, and you just can't get in the back. Those are on a case-by-case basis with a code enforcement officer, and he's going to these people's houses, and they're coming to a compromise, and we're logging it. And that way, when we all die and go, and the next generation comes through, or the next politician, we won't have to do this all over again. So maybe we need to write in a little exception to policy or something, if it's not intrusive, but not the big stuff. I can't see putting my RV over in front of your house. Just because somebody said I could. I don't want to go there. Rex, you didn't weigh in, except for your boat.
except you're being illegal.
His boat's for sale.
It's for sale. It won't run anyway.
I appreciate y'all's time, thank you.
I appreciate your input.
I still think that the point is that the code was written for a purpose and a reason, and to go in and rewrite it, I think is inviting chaos to our city. So, you know, if you say this is allowed, if you're gonna have everybody doing it, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, you know, we've never taken anything to excess that makes it beach. However.
Now, what I see happening, Thomas, if somebody like me that didn't know, there's probably some people that are storing boats, and I've heard of some of them storing them, they said, darn, if I can put it on a friend's lot, then what you probably gonna get is a lot of boats on lots too, whatever the number is. You know, and while it'll be an inconvenience for me, again, I don't think it's not what we think, it's what, you know, what have people told us? You know, what do we want as a city?
Yeah.
It was put on there for a reason, to clean it up. It's gotten cleaner, and then we didn't do it, so it's getting messier, so. And then what do you tell a code, if you hire a code enforcer, what do you do? Come in here and let me tell you the ones we don't enforce? That, you know, seems, you know, what direction, I think all this happened because we hired a code enforcement person, and they enforced the code, which brought it to light, you know, so we'd even look at it, so,
It was something like that.
yeah.
But,
So, as if we leave the ordinance as it is, then that means there's no parking on residential vacant lots, is that correct?
there's no parking on residential vacant lots unless it's combined,
Unless it's your.
where it's not second.
Yeah.
A good example is Terry Kearns on Nando. Last house on the left, he has a vacant lot, well landscaped, a rock driveway on that lot, and a house on the next lot, and he's combined them into one lot. Perfect example. Did a great job of accomplishing what he needed to accomplish.
Well, I'm glad, speaking as a homeowner, I'm glad that y'all have looked at it as hard as you have, and that you are looking to keep it that way. I'll have to disagree with Gary. If you have laws on the books, you either enforce them or you take them off the books. You can enforce the laws. I've lived in many places where they are enforced. Perhaps Gary never had a problem over where he is, but on the east side of town, we had major problems with people parking, and it looked like it looked like parking lots for many streets over there, as you well know, you live over there every time. Residential lots are meant to have houses on them. They're not meant to be storage units. And as the infamous pontoon boat across from me, I sent y'all all that picture. That is my reality. I look at that blasted boat every single day if I want my curtains open, and I can't do anything about it. But you can stop pontoon boats from multiplying at night and being everywhere. So I think that's a good idea.
Not to beat this dog, but someone on the east side of town had a different perspective. They said, we really don't care what you do because we don't have any vacant lots over here. And the ones that are over here that are vacant are sand lots that you can't even drive on. So we don't have that problem over here on the east side of town.
Yeah,
Interesting perspective.
It is interesting, but that's what they told us.
Sure.
this is an exact case of where my form of government would be perfect. The benevolent dictatorship would handle this.
Okay, Jared.
I think we should just kind of table this discussion unless a problem comes up in the summer that we have to deal with.
I'd say leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
But just don't beat the dog. There are some people that don't have it, I think maybe like you, don't even know. Behind Cupcake's house, there's 5 old pieces of trailer and old junk boats and stuff that there probably won't even float. That's probably just a nuisance that needs to be cleaned up. But it's in the same regulation, storage on empty lot. But code can take care of that. Miscellaneous.
Are we taking turns here, or
No, I'm done.
you're done?
I am done for the evening.
I'm hoarse.
Don't we start 2 pickups a week, March 1st,
Tomorrow,
tomorrow?
well, I mean, tomorrow's, yard debris day.
So we did this 1 pickup a week during the winter. How did that work?
I gave you
I saw that. Yeah, my question is directed to the mayor.
Well, in my opinion, we found out that we can pick up residential garbage in 2 days during the winter. And in my opinion, I don't think it's worked out so great. And I don't think it's something we should do long term.
Oh, because it didn't work out. I thought the whole plan was to utilize the extra labor to do things that we might have to pay contractors to do, but.
I haven't read Phil's report about that yet, so I'm just talking off the top of my head. He might have accomplished a lot more than I thought, but I was looking at it financially at the end of December, is that right? Maybe December I looked at that, and we weren't saving any money.
Okay.
Not because of that. There may be something on here that I hadn't priced out, but
Well, not saving any money interests me quite a bit. Because, so what you're suggesting is go back to 2 days, pick up a year out.
we might as well if we're not gonna save any money.
That's kind of what I thought. Okay.
If we're gonna keep with the current garbage system, and as I said, I'll never endorse bringing it to the curb again while I'm up here. If we want to keep our sanitation department, it doesn't make any difference, then it doesn't make any financial difference.
Okay.
We could probably just go back the way it was.
All right.
So they're gonna start picking up yard debris. No.
We pick up yard debris anyway on the odd weeks that Mr. Marking picking it up.
Okay.
Go back
So
to
if-
regular garbage because it's summer cycle.
Thursday and Friday, we'll be picking up household debris garbage.
Okay, so then if we continue with 2 times a week, come September, October, whenever we were going to go back to 1, we need to start thinking about, do we continue with the extra out-of-pocket pickup for yard debris, or will our guys do it all again? Because that contract's for a year, right, the 92,000?
It's for fiscal year.
Yeah, that's for a fiscal year. So if we're going back to 2 and we, are we
The
gonna?
contract does not specify a dollar amount, and I have harped on this on the
Okay,
phone
I'm sorry.
and in meetings.
All right,
We
I apologize.
estimate $92,000 is what it's.
And,
It's a contract for use.
and that part is no longer coming out of the enterprise fund of sanitation. We took that out, away from sanitation, put it in the general fund.
Okay,
So it's being paid by tax dollar, not by revenue dollar.
okay.
And I will, if I may, I have talked to, Lord only knows how many people. They're very happy with the job that Mr. Mark has done, and his crew.
I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, plus he can handle heavier items than the city can with the rig that he has. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
logs, good-sized logs, that we'd take 3 or 4 people to move. I mean, we just don't have the equipment that he has.
Right.
I'm real pleased with his work. He does a good job.
Other miscellaneous.
I have 2, please.
Okay.
If everybody would please take a few minutes tomorrow and take a look at the wording on the sign sheets. I know I'm gonna get with Kimberly, but the last time we discussed this at a meeting, it is my belief that this is what the council wanted the signs to say. So I incorporated all that into what you have in front of you there. If there's anything you'd like to change, please let me know. And we now officially have, yesterday Tommy went out and installed power on the outside of the restrooms at Parker Park. So we can provide power to vendors if we, what is it called? The farmer's market is coming up on the 11th, and they'll have power out there for their vendors. So that's installed.
Thank you.
What is that sign for?
Sir?
Here. You didn't get one?
Here.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Okay. Leave you alone because the auditor's here.
That's what I've got.
Chief's got plenty of people. He's good. Mel? I'm good.
Good.
Supposed to adjourn.
Good.
So moved.
Thank you very much.